Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing good. Now, today I've got a very special guest. I'm joined by Luce, who has been on my channel before, but I feel like we need we need a bit of Arsenal therapy today. We'll be chatting a bit about the women's team as well, sort of how we think they're doing the season as well. But first of all, Luce, thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing today?
Well, I mean, just obviously we were talking just before it got live, but yeah, I mean, I was doing good. Like if you asked me this time last week, I was feeling pretty good about Arsenal and everything. But we'll dive into it all. I feel like it's been a while since I last came on, so the teams, I feel like it's changed a lot since then. Well, both sides, so it'll be good to chat.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be good. I thought we could actually start off with the women's team because
Mhm.
obviously we spoke a little while ago, and Jonas was obviously the manager at the time, and we sort of had these
Right back.
discussions. Yeah, it's really weird now because I couldn't imagine Rennie not being our manager.
Mhm.
Um, but as we mentioned, we did have the discussions about Jonas if he would leave when would if that would come to it, and I just felt like we started off the season bad, and me and Jamal leaving. He even said that he thinks that was a reason why he sort of lost the fans sort of lost that faith in him. But yeah, just your thoughts on sort of the season and Rene, doing a really good job so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually crazy you saying that Jonas, like that was the last time I was on. That shows how long ago it is
Yeah,
because so used to him not being there. I think how he ended up leaving, I think that was quite poor from the fans. I'm gonna be real.
yeah,
Because obviously having like the Jonas out, I think no one should be subjected to that. But by whoever did that, whatever group of fans did that, it ended up creating this catalyst for now we're actually competing, we're actually in line to
yeah,
hopefully win at least one piece of silverware this season because I do feel like no matter what anyone says, Slagers is the woman for the job. Like she is the right person for that job. And I feel like what she's done with Arsenal, she's put some fuel back in. I mean, for
yeah,
me, anyways, I know when we were last chatting, I'm pretty sure it was with Kenya as well. We were all saying how some of
yeah,
the players just dropped their heads. Like for me in particular, I noticed Russo. I feel like she sort of just went missing a bit. She didn't have the confidence that we saw when she first came from United. And then people starting to doubt her. And I think that partly is probably what you were saying. Like Miedemar had obviously just left. So then everyone was comparing that Miedemar was there and now it's Russo and Russo's not doing the same job because they're complete different strikers how they play.
yeah.
But now I'm like, she's come back to life. She's scoring pretty much every game, no matter what competition. And yeah, I feel really good about it. I'm really excited about this season. I know obviously we are out of the League Cup, which is the Subway Cup, but there are still other competitions. So I don't know about you, but I'm feeling quite optimistic about silverware for the women's side, anyways.
Yeah, definitely. It has been really nice. And like you said with Russo, I mean, I think last season, she was good, like we said, but I think we maybe expected to see a bit more from her with the goals. And this season, I think it's just, it's come so far because
Mhm.
just kind of think every game she's gonna get a goal or she's gonna do something, and I think it's really great. I think Rene's definitely been a big part in that, as we mentioned, because I think when Jonas was here, sort of towards that Chelsea game as well, his last game, it was you could just sort of feel like in that first half that the players weren't really playing for him and they were just a bit deflated. And like you said, it's always hard, really, as well from the fans' perspective because I'm like you, I'd never really get a banner out or but I
No,
think
literally.
I think everyone is right if they don't think
Mhm.
he's the right manager. I think everyone's right in saying that, but I think it's just nice now to be at a place where we're sort of excited about the football we're playing. And it's sort of hard as well, isn't it, with Rene taking his job because we sort of know the league is over and we can't really catch up with Chelsea, and she sort of had to take over during this sort of what he's left here. But as you mentioned, we are in the Champions League still.
Mhm.
We are in the FA Cup. Do you think we could definitely get some silverware this season?
Yeah, I think we can get some silverware. I'm thinking the most likely place, like you said, WSL, it's looking a bit far out. I mean, as
Yeah,
much as we can try and win every single game and get all the points, Chelsea are pretty much doing that. Like even what was it, Everton last week or a couple of weeks ago, they were drawing and I was like, oh my God, we've just won
yeah,
5-0 in a North London derby. They're drawing, this is gonna be amazing. And then suddenly they managed to get that last minute winner with James. And I think it's so nice that they always find a way. So WSL for this season at least, I think we've got to write it off. We've got to still compete just in case Champions League doesn't go our way. We
yeah.
want to make sure we're in the top 3, obviously. And I think City has sort of dropped off a bit, so it's looking like it's
Yeah.
us or United to be second. So I'm feeling confident in the league that we'll come second or third, not to win it. But FA Cup, I think we can put all our energy into that. And Champions League, we've been dealt, it's not an easier draw, but we've been dealt sort of a team that I'm feeling like we could have been against, like a Barca or Chelsea at this stage, you know? So I
Yeah.
think in terms of who we could be facing, I'm not too, you know, scared about it. Hopefully I don't jinx that, but yeah, hopefully. I mean, I'm just looking at the comments as well, and Unbiased TV is agreeing with the FA Cup thing. So I'm
Yeah.
feeling like there's a lot of us agreeing with that, you know?
Yeah, I agree because I think this season I definitely think the FA Cup is winnable. I think with the
Mhm.
Champions League, obviously, it's going to be hard because I think Chelsea at the moment, have got some great players, and I was so jealous they got Kieran Walsh, by the way.
Oh my God, we haven't even been able to speak about that yet. Oh my God. Don't
Yeah,
even,
I
don't
was
even.
I was fuming at that, but yeah, which makes it harder because they've obviously got Lucy Bronze as well, and
Mhm.
I think if we ever did get Chelsea in the Champions League, it's going to be really hard to play them. I mean, I think in the league, we sort of know that it's probably going to be theirs, but if we can get far in the Champions League and we come up against them, I think the team will be up for it. I think we've got, obviously we'll come on to talk about this, but we've obviously got Chloe Kelly as well. I think we've
Yeah.
got more of a bigger squad this season. I know obviously it's really tough, but the Champions League is always going to be so tough. But I wanted to ask you as well about our signings as well because for me, Carl Denti, like she's been incredible, and I feel like when she came in, I knew she was a great player, but she just for me steps up in those big occasions, and when we really need her, she's like that person to really take us forward.
No, 100%. That is one player that I wrote down because I was like, I want to make sure we talk
Yeah,
about Caldente because I was like, she is literally. I know there was a lot of noise when she first was joining, which I don't understand why because she obviously just won the World Cup. Like she came from like a
yeah,
good, good background. Um, And then there was a lot of doubts like, oh, how's she going to slot in? But I think for her, especially in like about maybe the last month, like 6 weeks, she's really proved and really stepped up why she should be in that midfield position, partly
yeah,
because of Beth Mead and her injury. I feel like you're not like we see it so often with footballers, you're not the same when you come back from an injury, which is
yeah,
heartbreaking. And obviously, like with Miedemar coming back from injury, then her option was to leave the club. Obviously, there was probably other decisions and factors, but she ended up leaving and I've seen it with Beth Mead, like when she's come back in and like she's not the same. But then because we've got someone like Caldenti, who I think for me, the most impressive thing about her is her high press. Like
yeah.
she's scored a few goals or assisted a few goals because she's literally like on the keeper or on the centre back, like so much so that the minute she's got the ball, she either shoots herself. I mean, oh, what
Yeah.
game was it? I feel like all the games merge into one because we've got so
It
many.
might
But
have been the Man City one when we played
yeah,
them. Yeah, and she literally won the. I don't know who won the ball, but she scored straight away. And
yeah,
yeah, she's
literally.
got that energy, like you said. And I feel like these players are great, but she stands out a lot more to
Mhm.
me because she's like a big game player. And I think, as we mentioned, the Champions League's coming up, and I think these are the games where we really need players like her. And yeah, I think she's definitely been, really good, especially in those tougher games. Also wanted to touch on Chloe Kelly as well because
Mhm.
that deadline day for me was crazy. Obviously, it's really sad what she went through at Man City. And I thought it would make sense the way if she went to United because, I don't know, I didn't know at the time if her family were, around Man City. So it would make sense for her to just stay in Manchester. And then later we saw Arsenal and I thought, wow, like, would we do this? And then it all sort of happened. And even though it's a loan, I'm absolutely buzzing. Like, what are your thoughts about it?
Literally, I feel like everything you were saying, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about this, forgot about this.
Yeah,
I feel like with football,
so much has
you
happened.
move
Yeah,
on. And like all that's in my head is obviously the men's game from this week, but I forget that transfer deadline day, oh my God, I feel like that was literally you know what, I actually really liked it. As much as it was so stressful and some decisions didn't go away, some did, I think it's probably been my favourite transfer window because
yeah,
it's felt like, for me anyways, the community I've surrounded myself with, it felt like everyone I knew, we were all focused, and there were so many outlets talking about it that all eyes were on this transfer window, and that's really exciting for not only
Yeah,
the women's game, but also especially a club like Arsenal, who are trying to compete for those Champions League spots and trying to win those trophies this season. I feel like it was really good to have all eyes on that. Chloe Kelly, like you said, I mean, it all started off with her obviously coming out and authentically revealing everything on her story, and obviously, like you said, like no one wants her to go through that,
yeah,
but there's always a silver lining, and for us it happened to be her to come to Arsenal. I mean, the link up with, what is it, from going from City to United, you would never get that in the men's game. I just find it so funny because I'm like, the loyalties of going to random clubs, but if City
yeah,
aren't treating you right, that in my head, that would have been the best revenge, to go to the rival club. But then also we know the track record with United women,
yeah,
and I was like, realistically, Arsenal have shown to care more about their women's side for
yeah,
decades longer than any other club really in the WSL. So I think for Chloe Kelly that was an obvious decision. And I mean, I was there at the North London derby when she came on, and I think she actually got a better reception than Leah Williamson, and that's saying something because honestly everyone was going crazy, and I feel like she's come back home and it felt like that because
yeah,
the warming atmosphere, and I'm excited to see what she can do. I think obviously now she's got a space in Wiegman's side already for the upcoming Lioness games, which just proves that it's been so successful, and she's literally been on the pitch for not even a full game yet. So it is exciting to see. And yeah, I'm just excited to see how she's going to slot in. I know we've got quite a few wingers,
yeah.
so I'm not expecting her to be a starting player, but to have someone like that and to have that squad depth, which I think the men need to take a note out of the women's book right now.
Yeah,
We need that squad depth there.
yeah, we're doing well with that, honestly. But
Mhm.
I'm with you with like, I mean, even on the TV watching it, you could hear, the reception. It was like we scored a goal. It was so lovely.
Literally.
Yeah, I'm just happy. I hope, like, I think for the Euros as well, we all want to see her there. And I know due to injury, with Beth Mead and Laura Moy as well, she did go to camp. But it's nice to see her with a smile on her face, and I think it's just going to be really good to see if she can help us. In games, it's really tough because I sort of never know what games she can actually play in because of the Man City stuff.
Oh my god,
Because
though.
I'm thinking to myself, in the Champions League, I do wonder if she can play or not. Like, I don't know if she can play. I know if we're in the FA Cup, I presume that she can't because she might have played Man City. But I just wonder how many games she can actually play because it's really tough. For her. I wanted to play
Yeah, that's a
all
good
the time.
question. I feel like she actually came at the worst and best week because we played City twice in 1 week, which I feel like we haven't done for years. I don't know if we even did that
Yeah.
last season. So for it to happen in two competitions, and then obviously she couldn't play, and I was like, well, at least they can't play her, but we can't play her either. So it was a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, but I just hope she can get as much game time as she can. I
Yeah,
just wanted to say big up to Dom, big up to Unbiased TV, big up yourself. I also wanted to ask you about Laura Reuter because I did have a feeling she was going to go somewhere because she hadn't been playing much
Mhm.
football, and if we're being honest, she does deserve to play. Especially after doing her, ACL, she deserves some time again. To Man City, it did come as a bit of a surprise. What was your thoughts when you saw that? Because she did also come out and say that she had a soft spot for Man City, and I didn't know what to like. I love her. I'll always support her. But I just saw that and I was like,
Oh.
okay, yeah,
No, for sure. I think it is a bit of a weird one because obviously when you're joining a club, you have to be like, I love this club, like I'm so
yeah,
excited to join. But also you've got to sort of consider where you've been. And I think for her, we've sort of, as much as her game time probably hasn't been as good recently, obviously since coming back from her ACL. I feel like before that we were really developing her as a player at Arsenal, and then for her to be like, yeah, I've always actually had a soft spot for one of our rival clubs. It's a bit like what, but to be honest, good on her. I feel like that's
yeah,
another reason why the transfer window was so mad because players were literally switching. We were like, oh, we'll take Chloe Kelly if you take
yeah.
Lara,
But
and we were like, what? Like, okay, we'll just switch. It's sort of mad, but at least she's with Miedemar, who she already would have known.
yeah, that's lovely. Actually, I'm
Arsenal.
happy about that. Yeah.
It is just a bit of a weird one how it's always mix and match.
I've got a question for you here. Would you bring Ella Toon to Arsenal?
Oh, you know what? I was about to say I don't want to get greedy, but I feel like Chelsea have already started doing that, so we
Yeah.
might as well compete. But I feel like Ella Toon would be good for Arsenal, but realistically, where would she play? Because I know we've got the likes of Kim Little she's already announced she's got a contract extension. I'm not sure how long for, but I'm assuming
Yeah.
she probably this time next year. I don't know if she'll be at the club still. So I think we've obviously got to fill in that spot, but we've already got Kyra Cooney-Cross, we've got
Yeah.
Marina Caldenti, we've got a few other players already slotting in that I don't know realistically how well it would work. And also, if you look at what Mark Skinner did in the game against Palace, Ella Toon and Grace Clinton went so well together. I don't know why he's not done it before. He's a bit of a strange character to try and like,
Yeah.
you want to get me? I know not a lot of people are like too keen on him, but what he did with their link up was really good. So I don't see
Yeah.
them wanting to get rid of her anytime soon, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I'm with you. And like you said, I mean, I know Leah Valty, Kim Little, and they're not old, obviously, but in football, they are getting older. But we do also have fresh legs as well because we have, like you said, Kuna Cross, Palova when she comes back. I feel like, when you come to a team, I don't think you'd automatically just have to work your way inside. I mean, Russo's worked her way in and she's obviously deserved to start. And yeah, I just feel like I would definitely love to have her in the future. Maybe if Kim Little, unfortunately, when that day comes for us when she leaves.
That'll be so
Um,
bad.
do you know what as well? I mean, I think Kim Little's here. I think it said 2026, like a year, and I'm thinking, is that her last year?
To be fair, I feel like it is like when you see her, she came on in the North London derby later on in the game. I think maybe could be wrong, like maybe like the 70th, 80th minute. And for me, what she does, she's so good at just controlling the game. And we are yet to find someone who can control the midfield like she can. In my opinion, I feel like
Yeah,
I put her on a pedestal. Like, I think she's amazing what she's done for the club for the amount of years she's been there as well. But I think we need to find someone that can sustain that for longer, and maybe bringing in a fresh player like Ella Toon or someone could do that. But I feel like
yeah,
it just depends. It just sort of depends how maybe the Euros goes, how the rest of the season.
yeah.
Obviously, Ella Toon's best friends with Alessia Russo, so that would
Yeah, that link up would
be
be
nice. But
good. But
we'll
yeah,
see.
it's weird.
We'll see how it
I never really thought Alessia Russo would come to Arsenal because I always thought, I mean, I do think she did love United. I think she did love the time there, but with like Ella Toon, I think she loves United so much. I don't see her making a move in the next few years. I feel like later on in her career, if
Mhm.
she hasn't won like a league title or a Champions League, I think she would make a move. Like Mary Epp just had to do that for herself and make that move for her career. But yeah, I think you never know what could happen in football. Like stranger things have happened. Obviously, we know Renee's done a great job. Do you feel like next season we have a good chance of winning the league with her? Because obviously this season, it's kind of felt like bad on her because obviously Jonas has been here for sort of part of the season, and with obviously how women's football is and the league, if you lose a lot of games or if you draw a lot, the league's sort of over quite quickly. So I feel like she's not really had a fair shot this season with the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite a tricky one to say because I think anything's possible. I think it's
Yeah,
possible for any club who's got the right momentum and the right foundation. I think even if you look at the championship, we could have the likes. I think it's sort of between like London City Lionesses. I feel like London City Lionesses are probably likely the team coming up. They've got so much financial
yeah,
backing, and they've got a lot of ex-WSL players in their squad. So I think we could even be talking about them competing for the WSL title. So I think it's really hard to say when we haven't
yeah,
even finished this season yet. But if we're able to make some good summer transfers, maybe right now I have none that I could think of because I feel like that's so far away and we don't know what exact players we need right now. But
yeah,
I'm thinking the options there, whether Chelsea carry on strengthening their squad and coming up with ridiculous prices and they're getting all these players and we're not taking the chances. Whether that carries on happening, then obviously it's a different question. But I'd love to see a different club win it. I'd love to see a different club win it this season. And I don't even need it to be Arsenal. It sounds weird, but I think because the rivalry between Chelsea and Arsenal is so strong in the WSL that I'd rather United or City win it than Arsenal.
yeah.
If that makes sense. I don't know if you're the same, but
Do you know what? I saw something on the internet, and I think I think a reporter or pundit said it that Chelsea always win the title, and I think we obviously have had the money. I just think I think it's so hard. Man City obviously got close last season. I think they were just. I don't remember how close it was, but I think they were so close to winning the title.
Mhm.
I know for us, last years we have sort of been a little bit of a bigger gap again, from Chelsea and Man City. But I think this season, I think if we'd started off like we are now, then I think we would have probably flown
Mhm.
with the league and we would have
True.
done a lot better. But um, it'd be nice as well. I mean, obviously, I don't want United to win the league, but I feel like for their club, for what they've gone through, they've only become a club at the women's team for a few years. So I feel like it would be nice as someone that's watching it as a neutral or just for us,
Mhm.
nice to see not
Literally.
Chelsea win it. Like I think it does happen, but I do think more teams need a bit more like funding. I mean, we're quite lucky in the sense that we're able to get the big crowds and we're able to get these players and
Mhm.
they want to come here, which is nice. So but I think with other clubs it's probably harder for them to buy these players in. I mean, I look at a team like a Liverpool and I think it'd be great if they could one day win a league, because I know they were quite successful years ago. So I feel like it would be good for other teams to get that level of success. But it's going to be tough. I'm tired of Chelsea winning. Yeah, I think we all are. Big up Afaf, keep up the good work. Big up yourself. Watching from Kenya, that's pretty cool. That I love it when people like say where they watch it from. It's so fascinating.
Yeah, literally.
Unfortunately, I want to speak about the men's team. I don't know where to start really. Well, let's just start obviously last season. I don't know about you, but I ended the season thinking if we have a good summer, I think we could have a great chance of winning the league. But in my mind, I thought to myself, we have to bring a striker in summer. Obviously, we didn't, and then the January window happens, and we didn't, and we've got like so many injured players. Like, I don't know, just tell me your thoughts and what sort of went wrong for us this season.
Girl, honestly, I don't even know where to start. I think it's really tricky because, like you said, end of last season, I was thinking, okay, like I know we were so close. I
Yeah,
remember watching it in my kitchen at uni, and I was like gutted. Like we had a couple of us Gooners and a couple of City fans, and I was like, oh my god, get out. But it was a really good like end to the season because I thought, right, if we carry on like this, and yes, like you said, we maybe strengthen our squad by having like a starting 11 on the bench, which I feel like we see a lot of other teams almost doing. They're the best teams in the world have that. I was like, if we can try and compete with that, but I felt at the start of the season, like I was sort of trying to pick out, like I feel like we got off to a good start. We won the North London Derby. I mean, if you look at the North London Derby this season as a whole, we've won 4 out of 4, like the men and women. So we've done well in certain aspects. Even against City, we
yeah,
drew the first game 2-2. Then we ended up winning the second one. What was that, 5-1? Like we have been competing. I know City have had a massive drop, so it's not obviously for us to be like, oh my god, it's amazing because they're not the City of last season. But still, to be competing against teams like that, and we haven't dropped off as much as United have. Yeah, I feel like everyone is acting like quite a few Arsenal fans are acting like we have, and we're literally about to be in the relegation zone. I'm like, just because we're 8 points
yeah,
off the top, we're still in second. And I think for us, our focus now has to be coming in the top 4. We can't use injuries as excuses because
yeah,
loads of teams have injuries. And when I hear other teams say it, like Spurs, I'm like, oh my gosh, shut up. But then when we're saying it, I'm like, oh, okay, guys, we can't be saying that. Um,
yeah,
for me, I think the only issue or the main issue is our squad depth and the fact that we have Havertz out now along with Saka. No one could have planned that. But what we
yeah.
could have done is brought back up and cover in the January window up in the final third, and that's probably the space we're lacking the most, and that's I think the most crucial part right now. So I feel like we're just going to get further and further away from Liverpool. But as long as we don't drop into like fourth or fifth, then as long as we get top 3, I think this would be a good season. You know?
Yeah, I think we have to maintain where we are. That's the most important thing
Yeah.
because I think, to me, if we'd have beaten West Ham, I would probably have said the title race is still on. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't think a draw would have helped us really, but I can't help but think, we go to Anfield as well. And I mean, at the moment, if we lose to Liverpool there, it doesn't particularly matter because in a title race, I sort of know that it's done. But as you mentioned, like Nottingham Forest, we played them on Wednesday, and they're behind us, and like I don't know, it'd be weird if they overtook us because like they've done so well this season, but it would be a little bit like weird to see
Mhm.
them. But yeah, I think I would be surprised like if we came fourth because we've seen how good we have been recently. But as we've mentioned, like there's not much we can do with these sort of players because we're missing Saka massively. Obviously Jesus out, Havertz out. You just never would have expected this to happen when the season came, and I do think we could have helped ourselves by bringing someone in the January window.
Mhm.
Because we were linked to Ollie Watkins, and I know a lot of fans were like, "Oh well, God, I don't want him," but I bet you wish we had him now, honestly.
Which even I know the name like Rashford was sort of thrown around and people were like,
Yeah,
no. And I was like, but he's literally alone. And if you look at him now at Villa, he's thriving. He
he
just
did
needed
really
to get
well the
out
other
of that,
day. Yeah,
literally, like he just needed to get out of that United space. Because for whatever reason that environment was not successful for him. So he's moved on, and there's a part of me that I'm like, right, like I'm literally just looking up now. We've got Forest coming up. We've also got Champions League, United, another Champions League game, Chelsea. We have got some, like that's literally just the next month of football or the next few weeks, and we've got some big games. And then towards the end of the season, we've got obviously Liverpool, Newcastle, which by that point, playing Liverpool, like you said, it's probably going to be like, right, well, that's sort of a
yeah.
write off. Like I'm assuming that by then we'd know that Liverpool have definitely won it. But I think it's just frustrating overall that we haven't been able to prepare for it. But I don't understand why a lot of people are just saying it's down to Arteta because
Yeah.
there's a whole team of staff, like a whole room that decides all these choices. And I think it's unfair to put it down on him. And also, it's unlikely to expect your team to get silverware every single season. And for Arteta to even put us in these conversations in the last few years of could we win the title? Could we go far in the Champions League? I think that's something to be really proud of. So I think as much as I'm gutted that we're not able
Yeah.
to keep the momentum up. But it's not even like against the big teams, it's just losing against teams that maybe it's like it seems more fluky, but also it's a pattern for us. So I think it is really gutting overall. But Arteta out is sort of a bit of a crazy statement, I think.
It has been going around. I think, in all honesty,
Mhm.
I do think fans are starting to lose their patience. I mean, I think a lot of us are just tired. This season has
Yeah.
just been like a bit of a write off. I mean, I think it is hard because I personally think the owners are the biggest to blame. Um, I do question Arteta's future in the long run. I do question if he can get us over that line. Do you
Mhm.
think this season though he's had a lot of injuries, like Saka has been the biggest blow, and I do think as well. I looked at the game the other day and I thought I think these players are capable of getting a win against West Ham. Like I know these players. Some of them, wouldn't usually start if, these players are here. But I just feel like Odegaard's sort of been under a lot of criticism. I do think as well. I think a lot of these players are sort of struggling with, maybe responsibility, maybe having to turn up in these big moments because I think, they knew Liverpool dropped points in a week, so they knew if they won today, it would be back on. Because
Mhm.
5 points is actually not a massive gap. I think you can catch that up because if we'd won at Anfield, that gap closes massively. So I feel like this season it's just honestly been one of those seasons. But I do think the owners are. I think everyone's to blame in a sense, but I do think with
Mhm.
the owners, I think they've been a big problem with us for a very long time. Like the Super League stuff, and then it sort of died down a bit because we went competing again and we got close to the league. But I do think this summer, I do think we have to go out really big because I think it looks like Jorginho might go, Partey could go. Obviously, I do have my doubts about maybe Saliba, Madrid, these sort of things
Mhm.
happening. But how many players do you think we would need in the summer for you to go into next season and feel like we can do this?
That is a question and a half. I think it's really hard to put a number on it because we got players in. We had Calafiori, we had
Yeah,
Marino, We've got Timber back. Like we've got all these players in. I mean Sterling, but it doesn't matter if they're not performing. I mean Sterling right now, obviously, I hate to say it, but he is not suited for Arsenal right now. He's just not really been performing, and I think
Yeah.
maybe if he went to another club, some people I know have been talking, especially at my work, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, just Sterling, like he's done with football now. He won't even get into the Championship side," which I think is very extreme. Like I think he's still good enough for Premier League, but just not at Arsenal.
Yeah.
In terms of the amount of signings, as long as they're good signings, we probably just need
Yeah.
a couple up top. I think Marino, he's proved that he can be a bit more versatile and he can slot in. But if anything, he's better as cover for our midfield spaces.
Yeah.
And I think it is just it's quite tricky to put a number on it. But yeah, I'm impressed with Marino stepping up. He did well in the Leicester game, but I think that's because no one expected it. Like no one could have planned for it. Whereas when you look at West Ham
Yeah.
had a whole week to think, well, who are they going to put up top? It's going to be Marino. Let's
Yeah.
make sure we cover it. So I think that sort of is how he got shut down, and he literally barely touched the ball. Because of that, I think also just going back to what you said about Odegaard, he hasn't been doing as good recently, which is really gutting. But I think people saying get rid of the captaincy and things like that, like it's all just throwaway comments. I don't like how you
Mm.
do one thing and suddenly everyone's like hops on it, like oh my god, I hate this person, and suddenly it's like oh my god, I love this person. So I think we just need to stay a bit calmer with all of that. Even
Yeah.
Rice, like people haven't mentioned it as much, but Rice didn't have as good of a performance, maybe because of there's more emotional attachment for him with West Ham. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be gutted that I potentially have lost the title because of my former club. Like it is a sad situation. But I think there's quite a few problems. It's not just
Yeah.
one. Get me?
Yeah, I think with Odegaard, I think he's obviously had an injury months ago and he was out for a while. And I don't know, maybe he's had a lot going on off the pitch, but to me in that game, I don't know if you've seen it, but so many people have seen it. It's like it was like a clip, and he sort of ran away from the player. Like he could have been close to Trossard in the attack, and he sort of went the opposite way. And I do think maybe at the moment he's just lacking a lot of confidence, and he's out of
Mhm.
form massively. And I think maybe he doesn't want the spotlight on him because maybe if he makes a mistake, he's worried that fans are gonna just say awful things. But I think it's so tough, really, isn't it? Because I think when you have a captain like him out of form, when he's in form, he's probably the best player on the pitch with Saka. But at the moment, you can't really rest him or drop him because we don't really
Mhm.
have that option. But I do really like Odegaard as a captain. I do think also Rice would be a good captain as well.
Mhm.
But I think when Odegaard's back in form, he's very good, and I think people are forgetting how good he has been with us. But it is really hard at the moment because, as you mentioned, we have sort of Sterling here, who's yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I do definitely think he could still play football somewhere, whether that's championship, whether that's somewhere in the league. But I think I don't know if I was him and I thought to myself at Chelsea, you know what, I'm not enjoying it here. I'm going to go to Arsenal and I'm going to really give it my all. And he might think to himself, maybe Arteta might think, I like Sterling, maybe I could bring him in next season. But he's not proved anything to me. He's just sort of like he doesn't. I don't know. I just don't think he's done much really on the pitch. I
Mhm.
mean, I know Odegaard gave him that free kick, and it just felt to me like I don't know. He's very talented. I do think he still has that in him, but we're just not seeing it right now.
No, literally, and there's obviously so many different factors of why that could be. I mean, you do see it a lot. We were literally talking about Russo earlier and how suddenly a new manager brought it out of her. So maybe it's just him leaving the club to go somewhere else because I don't see Arteta, no matter what people say, I don't really see Arteta leaving anytime soon or a big
Yeah.
change like that happening within Arsenal. So maybe he's still got it in him, like we know that, but maybe he can explore that and that will be revealed somewhere else.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's not been the best season for us, and I just hope for me personally that we'll have a good summer. We'll
Mhm.
finally bring in a striker. I mean, I don't think we'll bring in like it's so hard because with Isaac, I really I would take him, in a heartbeat. But I think as well he might look at us and think, what, we finished second a few times. They've been knocked out of cup competitions. I do sort of worry will players like that think about that before they come to Arsenal? But I still think we'll have a good summer. I still think, like you said, we're second, we've had a load of injuries this season, and I think to be where we are now, that's still really good. And you'd expect us to maybe have been like fourth or fifth, or fallen off a bit more because of how these injuries have affected us. But we're still sticking there. We're not really. I think with the league, it's going to be hard. I mean, I realistically think Liverpool will do it, but if Liverpool drop points, there's always a tiny chance, but I just think it's going to be hard. I also wanted to ask you about the Champions League as well, because obviously we have PSV, and if we if we win that, I do not want to face Madrid. I'm not going to lie.
Nope.
I don't look at us in the Champions League and think, we're quite ready yet in that competition. But do you feel like we've got any chance of, going far in that competition with sort of these players that we have right now?
I think we've got a chance of progressing further.
Yeah,
And with PSV, obviously, we can't rule them out. Like, they are a good side, but I
yeah,
think we have a chance of progressing further. And if we end up coming against the likes of Madrid or any teams further down the line, then it will be really good for us to learn what we can do for next season. Because I don't think I'd love to be able to beat them, but I can't confidently say that we'd be able to do that. But one thing
yeah,
as well, talking about Champions League and the Premier League, they're the only two things we can focus on, because obviously recently we've gone out of both the Carabao and the FA Cup. And I think for me, that is more frustrating, because if you look at all four competitions, the ones we had the better chance with a couple months ago was probably the Carabao Cup, was
yeah,
probably like the main one that we could have won, and the FA Cup. Whereas Premier League and Champions League, they were a little bit further out of reach, and even more so now, like the Premier League. And it's really annoying, because I'm like, why do we get complacent with certain cups? And as a fan base, there's quite a few fans that were saying, well, they're
yeah,
just small cups. And I'm like, well, wouldn't you rather just win any cup? And also, the League Cup and FA Cup, they're not small cups. Like the FA Cup, we've got a history with that. It's not a small cup, it's something that we'd like to get. So I think
yeah,
when you look at this season as a whole, I'm like, wow, we've been knocked out of a couple. And basically, our main chance of winning silverware is probably the Premier League, if I'm thinking realistically. But even that, we're 11 points away from Liverpool. We've got a game in
yeah,
hand, but even then, we'd be 8 points away. So I think it is really frustrating that that's probably our best chance of winning silverware. And maybe
yeah.
going into next season, we try better in those cup competitions that people maybe see as like less desirable or whatever.
Yeah, I think like with the League Cup, I would have been happy if we had won that and came second this season, because I think
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, it's a trophy, and
Literally.
we've not won it in ages as well. I think a lot of fans were thinking at the time, you know what, we can win the league. Let's just forget about the League Cup. But I just feel like with the league, it's a very long process, and I feel like with the League Cup, it's probably more a realistic route for us to go down, because obviously if we'd beaten Newcastle, I know it would have been tough, but we would have had Liverpool, in that final. But I just think we need to be getting to finals again and being able to
Mm-hmm.
do that. But with the Champions League, I'm with you. I think we've just got to progress and see how we go. I mean, like you said, I'm not really expecting us to win it, because I think Madrid are just so good, and I know Liverpool as well are doing good. So I feel like there's a lot of good teams in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we had our if we've had our squad fit, Saka in there, Jesus Havertz, I feel like would have been a much better chance. But I think we're in this position now where it's going to be hard. But I think all we can do is our best in the Champions League, and I think let's just hope that we can just beat PSV. But as we mentioned, Madrid, I think that's going to be a very, very tough one to come up against, because you saw against Man City that so easily they can just score and take their chances, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, they're so good. So it's going to be tough. But like we said, I think if we can just end the season as good as we can, finishing second at this moment in time, and with the Champions League, I think if we got to a semi-final, I definitely think that would be a big improvement for us. But honestly, I never know where we're going to finish in the Champions League, because it's so different with the league, isn't it? So you just don't know. But yeah, Luce, thank you so much for joining me today. I know you also have your channel, which I've been watching and I love it. Do you want to just tell people a bit about that as well and where they can find you?
Thanks, girl. Yeah, so I've recently set up in the last like 2-3 months the Arsenal Humans podcast, which is just weekly episodes chatting about pretty much what it says in the name, Arsenal Humans. So whether that's Russo or Rice, it's just chatting about the men and women's side. And I've literally just posted one like an hour ago, and it's not the most uplifting one because obviously
It's
the
hard
West
to
Ham
be.
game this week.
Yeah.
But hopefully from next week onwards, we've got the men and women playing. So I'm hoping a little bit more optimism with that. But yeah, thanks for having me today.
Oh, you're very welcome anytime. And yeah, I'm really hoping that in the next week we'll feel a lot more happier as well. Obviously, the women's is on international break, so yeah, we need them to cheer us up again.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I mentioned, I do have your channel in the title, so please do check out Lucy's channel. But yeah, I'm really so sorry, guys, that we weren't able to be more positive. But it's just really hard at the moment because obviously we want to win stuff and it's not really going too good. But yeah, fingers crossed we can just end the season on a high, even though we've still got a long way to go. I'm sort of talking, it's like we've not got long left.
I was about to say, we're talking like we've literally got the last game at the weekend, but it's actually, well, I think if we're
Oh
going to
god,
get
it
silverware this
is.
season, it's going to be Renee Slagers that's going to give us that. So
Yeah,
no, there's still some hope.
yeah, there's still hope that, I mean, let's just, yeah, try to stay positive. Big up Unbiased TV as well. Big up, glad you enjoyed the show. But Lisa, it's great to chat with you. Thank you all so much that have commented, sent in questions. Please don't forget to like this video, guys. Please do subscribe here if you are new, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.